Good morning, everyone. Um, I'm sure there's a lot to talk about. First and foremost, I want to say that from the very beginning, I've said this multiple times, said it to the team the other day. I was on two different committees over the summer and into the fall, um, these COVID working groups. And we always ask two questions. Should we and can we? And the should we is always answered by the student athletes. And when things like this come up, where the county of Santa Clara, in their efforts to stem the tide of this virus, made a decision to try to save lives, to try to help the people in this community. So, should we continue to play? Should we find a way to play? And our student athletes have worked extremely hard and have been through a lot from last March when we couldn't finish spring football. So I guess it was March or into April. I can't remember what month it was anymore. It was March. And talked to our student athletes, and they want to play. So very grateful to President and Provost Mark Tessier-Levine and Persis Drell to find an avenue for us to continue to play. And Bernard Muir and our administration set out to find a way. And our operations group, as you can imagine, the number of people that worked feverishly and basically a less than 24-hour period to put a lot of options on the table. And then for our president and provost to push the go button and start this process. Grateful to the University of Washington for allowing us to practice last night. We'll be okay the rest of the day. It was just tough to find a place to play or practice in such a short notice. But they allowed us to practice in their indoor facility last night to once again give us a chance to prepare for the football game. Our guys have had that mantra, relentlessly adapt the entire season. It's just what we've had to do. Made our trip up here to Washington, got settled in the hotel, practiced last night, meetings this morning, and do the best we can to take care of them health and safety wise. We've got our testing set up. We've got our sanitation set up, our rules and regulations for the guys, what they understand, not much different than when we're at home. And our guys have been great. Had a great practice last night. Our guys are in good spirits and realizing that this is just one of those things that happens during a pandemic. And once again, and I'll say this again, for that question of should we, our student athletes have worked so hard this entire offseason to get ready for the season, and we've only played 3 games, and they want to play more. So I think it's up to us to make sure that we can do so in such a manner that keeps them safe and truly allows them to prepare and go out there and play the games they love to play. Beyond that, Washington's a very good football team. This past game, they showed unbelievable resilience. They are long, they are athletic. They've always been good on defense, and they're physical up front. Offensively, they will run the ball and take those deep shots. I think us coming off our best game of the year still wasn't perfect. We still got a lot of good football players and a lot of young football players that we know are improving. And we're gonna have to play a really good football game against this team to have a chance to win. So I'll open up for questions.
First question will go to Rusty Simmons from the Chronicle. Rusty, go ahead.
Coach, can you kind of walk us through Saturday through Tuesday, from the health orders coming down to you guys getting to Washington? I can only imagine all the meetings and decisions and answers that you had to find.
Yeah, that's a tough thing to do. I don't think we have enough time to let you know all the things that came not just through my mind, but all the conversations that were had. I would say this in general. Our operations staff, led by Matt Doyle and Callie Simon Dale, just have been outstanding By really Friday evening, having an idea what the county was going to. They're very transparent about what they wanted to do. They gave, we all love to have a little bit more of a heads up, but they gave us an indication of where they were headed. Going into Saturday evening, our staff started looking into options and possibilities, whether that was what we did in training camp, which is practicing in another county but staying in Santa Clara County, whether that was moving someplace in California, northern or southern, in a different county, or that was transplanting to another place. And we had a lot of options. We were obviously going to lean on our campus leadership and wanted to present some options to that leadership. And I know our president did have conversations with the president of the University of Washington, what was best for our student athletes in order to really make this game possible. So that really went into Sunday, and a lot of conversations between our athletic director and our other campus leadership to really decide not just what to do, but how, what was feasible. All the while understanding that if our student athletes said, we don't want to do this, then we wouldn't do it. We wouldn't do it. But I think that's been heard across the country. Our student athletes in all sports, this is part of what they want to do. This is part of the reason why they went to the universities that they went to. Yes, to get an education, but yes, also to play their sports. And it's on us as their mentors and coaches and those that want them to be at their best academically, athletically, and socially, to give them the best opportunity to compete. And this pandemic is relentless. It's brutal. It's very, very difficult. And at the same time, those of us that coach any sport in college will say it over and over again, and there are people out there that don't understand it. The dedication and effort of these young people, academically, athletically, socially, for us to be in the middle of a pandemic and we haven't had a single positive, knock on wood, on our team in months, means that our student athletes are working really hard because they want to play. So I think we need to work just as hard to give them that opportunity, and that's what we're doing. So a lot of credit to a lot of people, to our equipment staff, to turn on a dime from an away game at Cal to come back and have an away life for the next couple of weeks, looks like, and get everything done to strength conditioning. So many people had to be involved in all of these things. And at the top of the list, honestly, our medical staff and our conference mandated testing. Wherever we went, we had to be able to do our daily testing. And once again, we're testing up to 9 times a week to make sure everybody's safe and healthy. And we got all of that organized in a very short period of time to allow us to come up here and compete in the sport we love.
And Coach, you led me right into something else I wanted to ask about, was the players' reaction. That has to be a whirlwind, going from getting the axe back to like you said, living a life on the road now. How have they handled all this?
Well, I say this all the time because someone told me this a long time ago, and it's proven to be true. Student athletes are more resilient than we are, right? We have so many anxieties and worries and all these things, and a high percentage of the student athletes will look and say, I get to go stay in a hotel and get to play football. All right, let's go.
Uh-huh.
Right? You're going to feed me and give me a place to lift weights and allow me to enjoy myself when I have some free time and stay within the rules. Hey, let's go do it. So like I said, practice was great. I gave them some advice that my mother gave me a long time ago. One of the things that I live by, which no matter how difficult decision that you have, once you make a decision, you go forward with enthusiasm and do it to the best of your ability. And this is where we are. This was a tough decision, a tough thing to get through, but now we're here. Okay, great. Let's go practice with enthusiasm. Let's meet with attention to detail, and let's go play with it to the best of our ability. And be able to look back and say, hey, through all these tough and difficult circumstances, we did the best we could, and we enjoyed the process.
Thank you.
Our next question will come from Kyle Bonagura.
Hey, David. How do you anticipate the +1 week going? Do you think you'll probably just end up playing another away game and then try to set up camp wherever that game might be? And then also, who is picking up the tab for all the additional costs? Is the conference, you guys, a combination of both?
Well, as far as the +1 week, that's up in the air. Don't have a clue. I just know it can't be played in Santa Clara County. So right now we're focusing on the next 2 games. We'll see what happens after that. As far as picking up the tab, we're actually thinking about having a collection plate, passing out to the media. See if you guys can fork some stuff over. No, I think I don't have the answers right now because was so fast and such a whirlwind. I think it's a combination of our budget and the conference's budget. So I'll leave that question to people with bigger offices than mine. But once again, the bottom line for us was, regardless of what anybody who is a non-believer in intercollegiate athletics, this decision was not made because we can make money or the conference can make money. This decision was, hey, do our student athletes want to do this and transplant their lives for 2 weeks, possibly longer? And since they said yes, we said, okay, we'll make it happen. So yeah, as far as who's writing all the checks, couldn't even tell you right now.
Next question is from Mike Varell at the Seattle Times. Mike, go ahead.
Hey, Coach, I'm wondering, just with your practice situation, are you practicing exclusively at UW? And if so, how are you making that work with their program in terms of scheduling? Are you practicing exclusively at night, or what's the situation going forward this week?
Just one night, just last night. We had no intention of practicing at the University of Washington, but on short notice, trying to find a high school that was available with a lot of high schools that are in session right now and have and using their facilities for a variety of sports. We just couldn't do it on 1 day notice or a day and a half notice. So Washington said, hey, you don't have a place to practice. We'll give you a place to practice for Tuesday night. We're set for the rest of the week, going to various other locations. But yeah, just that one night.
Can you share which high schools you're practicing at, or do you not want to?
I don't know if I can say that, right? There are all these recruiting rules, and I don't want to publicize something the wrong way. So I know where we're going, and I'm very grateful to where we're going, but you have to ask somebody else I have to ask somebody to make sure that I can actually just say that openly.
And then I just wanted to ask real quick a separate question. Obviously the pandemic is unprecedented and no one's faced this, but I'm wondering, in your coaching career, has there ever been a situation where you've been displaced from your training facilities for any reason? Has that ever come up?
Well, I don't want to make light of your question, but when we're going into 2000, right, and everybody was nervous about the clocks turning and nothing working, right, going from 1999 to 2000, I was with the Oakland Raiders, and I think we were playing on New Year's Day, or right about there. We went to Kansas City and said, hey, let's just go there, because we didn't know if the airports were going to not work. We didn't know if the air traffic controllers, we had no idea. It seems so silly now. But that was one of those things, and it was a kind of short notice. And you know what, let's make sure, because all these people were worried about things not working. Let's just get to Kansas City, so if something happens, we're already there and we can play the game. And that was the wives trip. Every year we had a wives trip. So we ended up spending multiple days in Kansas City with our wives. It actually ended up being a great thing. And once again, credit to a lot of people to make something like that happen, to move an organization. What the 49ers are doing right now, I mean, that's not a small order, to really make sure that you can change locations and still function at a high level. It's one thing just to move and go someplace else, but you have to be able to go there and function. And it takes a lot of people doing a lot of really important things.
Thank you.
Next question, we're going to go to Stuart Mandel from The Athletic. Stuart, go ahead.
David, can you just kind of take us through like what a day will look like for you guys, whether it's today or tomorrow during this? And is it at all similar to if you were at a bowl game right now, if you were, up and relocated?
Different than bowl game, there are no functions.
Right.
We're just living here. So for us, get up in the morning, our COVID test, breakfast, meetings, a window for the guys to pick up their equipment, which was washed from last night and returned to them early this afternoon. Pick up their equipment, grab their lunch, change it to their partial practice attire, hop on the bus, the socially distant bus ride, and then get to practice, get back, feed them some dinner. They have a little bit of free time. And as the coaches will watch film and prepare for the next day and give them a snack in the evening. So, really, really not thinking about this like a bowl game, really thinking about this as a regular week. And, I think this would have been really difficult to do if we were even in school, even, this new way of doing school online would have been really difficult. So the fact of us being out of school, I think helped us be able to map out this day, these days for our student athletes.
And one other question, the pandemic has been hard for everybody, but this is, I don't think another Power 5 program has had to up and relocate for several weeks, and you've already dealt with obviously restrictions that they didn't have to deal with in the SEC or other parts of the country. I mean, what has kept you guys from, you seem to have a very upbeat attitude about all of it. Have there been moments where you've just been really frustrated that maybe that you're being put at a disadvantage relative to other conferences or other schools?
That's a good question. And those of you that have been around me for a while, I wouldn't venture to say that we know each other overly personally, but I'm pretty transparent in this. Like, frustration doesn't do anything for me. It doesn't do anything for me. My big deal is, okay, what are our parameters? What can we do? What can't we do? Now let's make some decisions and go. I've never been one to get mired in the could have, would have, should have, wish we had. That doesn't do anything for me. I've got student athletes, I've got staff, I've got a lot of alumni and people that really love and believe in what we're doing and how we do it. I can't waste time worrying about things that I have no control over and don't honestly care about. I'm not concerned with what anybody else has. I'm only concerned with what we have, who we have, and what we can do for our student athletes to go out there and play the sport that they love. So that's where my focus is. And yes, there are moments of difficulty, but great. I mean, life throws difficulties at us all the time. And sometimes the best thing that I can do really is give an example to our student athletes of how to handle difficulty, how to handle a situation where nobody still understands what happened with a COVID test in Oregon, to handle guys not being able to go, to handle not being able to do this, but not do that, and say, okay, great. Well, here's what we have. Let's go. Let's go do it. Because one of the things that I just don't believe in having is regret. And I think when you spend too much time worrying about things you can't control and you let things spiral, then you look back and say, man, I wish I handled that better. And I can't do that. I can't be that. And I can't be an example for our young people that way. We've got a great opportunity to play the game that we love on national TV against a very good Washington football team. So for me, hey, let's get there and let's prepare and let's go play with a great attitude and mentality and do our best to win.
Next question is from Jacob Rayburn. Jacob, go ahead.
Hey, Coach. I was wondering if you could update us on anyone who came out of the Cal game hurt or anyone who is going to be available this week who wasn't available last week. That's
a good question. Don't can't, off the top of my head, I don't think of anybody that was not available last week that will be available, or vice versa. I think we've got the same group. There was one. Correct me if I'm wrong, Scott. There was one, but in our 2 deep.
We can send out that update later today, Coach. We can connect.
Yeah, we'll send that 2 deep up later today.
And looking back on the Cal game, wondering what's your eval of the offense now 3 games in? Obviously, there's an asterisk for certain parts of the offense's performance through 3 games. But at least on paper, big game was the first game that all of your expected offensive starters were on the field together, had a chance to play a full game. What were your big takeaways of a positive nature and of the work to do nature?
Well, and I actually like the way that you asked that question, because your team is better when they can all practice and play together. And that's what I'm looking forward to going forward, hopefully the next few weeks in particular, that we can keep everybody healthy and on the field. We just get better. And I think you saw part of that was, the way we ran the ball in the second half was a lot like the way that we want to look. The way we threw the ball in the second half the previous week was a lot like the way we want to look. And for us to really be kind of hopefully gaining some momentum to be the physical running team that we want to be, with the high percentage run after catch as well as downfield capabilities on the offensive side. We've seen a little bit of that going forward. I said something to Davis Mills the other day about, he had 75% completion in the game with 2 drops and 2 bad throws. And that's great. That's better than we were the week before. And now it's making all the throws, making all the catches, and still getting some explosive plays. Combine that with the way that we ran the ball physically in the second half. We've seen what Austin Jones can do. We've seen what Nathaniel Pete can do. We get these guys to and through the line of scrimmage. So we have an opportunity, hopefully, with all of our guys being there, practicing together, playing together a little bit longer. I keep reminding myself and the staff, we got a significant portion of our team that are sophomores or juniors that haven't played a lot, even though they are technically upperclassmen. And you get better by playing, and you learn from experience. And that usually means you screwed it up, and then you get better from messing it up and doing it better the next time. So hopefully all those things continue to converge the rest of the season, where we really start to be the complete offense that we want to be.
And if it's all right, one last thing that's a little bit random. With all the chaos you and everyone else has been experiencing within the football program, wondering if during some downtime you got to enjoy some men's basketball.
I watched the highlights last night after practice, kind of running around. I'll actually have the game. Game comes on in a little over half an hour, next game. I'm so excited about, really both of our basketball teams, our men's team and our women's team. They are so talented. And I think what you're starting to see, you always saw on the women's side last year, and it continues this year, is that chemistry. And I'm excited for this men's team to really kind of play off of each other, because we had a couple of new guys in there that look like they can really help us. So I'm excited to watch this team grow. And they're going to be like us for a while, be kind of nomadic to a certain degree. But I texted with Coach Haas the other day, and they're taking the same attitude, which is, hey, you know what? We got an opportunity to play. Who cares where? Doesn't matter. Let's go out there and give it our best.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
Next question is from Troy Clarity. Troy, go ahead.
Hey, Coach, kind of as an offshoot on that question about the offense and how it's been looking of late, we've seen more and more of Miles Hinton in extra offensive lineman packages over the last couple of weeks or so. How how nice is it to be able to have extra offensive linemen to be able to run those kind of packages, and what could that possibly mean for some things we see from the offense going forward the rest of the season?
Yeah, as most of you know, that was just part of base offense for us, and it's been that way for 10 years. It just last year we just had to play the 5 guys that were healthy. We didn't even have 6 half the time. We were practicing with defensive linemen, and Tucker Fisk was ready to go in and play tackle if we needed him to. But this year, for us to be able to have these guys ready, I mean, we've got really about 8 or 9 guys that are ready to play. We hope to continue to play 6, if not 7, and really start their careers. And that's where, it's a lot of our guys that have been really good here have gotten that taste of football, coming in for a couple of plays, very, very strict and specific role. We think Miles has a chance to be really special. And this is just a good way to get him going, get him out there, blocking and being physical. It's been a luxury that we didn't have last year that we really appreciate.
Second thing, you gave us your general thoughts on the Huskies earlier. Thoughts on a couple specific players. ZTF, number 58, coming off the edge. And seems like their tight end, Otten, number 87, also is a big weapon for him. Your initial thoughts on both of those guys?
Yeah, ZTF is a physical, athletic son of a gun, man. Very, very active. He's one of, and it's hard for me to say that we have to just account for him, because they're pretty good across the front. They're pretty active. They're great with their hands. They get off blocks. But yeah, him in particular, I didn't see their game on TV before, and then I saw some of the highlights, and I just said, wow. Tight end wise, as many of you know, Washington has a rich tight end tradition. A lot of tight ends from the Northwest. We've been in recruiting battles with Washington for tight ends for years. We got one that's in line with a lot of those guys. I played against Mark Brunell and all those guys, and he's right in that tradition. Athletic, got good hand-eye coordination, good body control for a guy his size. He's made some tough catches already this year, so yeah, he'll be somebody that we have to account for, because once again they like throwing the ball down the field, and he's not the only tight end that gets out there too. They got a few guys that get out there, so that's part of their package, both to get physical and run the ball, and as well to throw the ball.
Thanks, Coach.
Next question is from Ashley Adamson. Ashley, go ahead.
Hey, Coach. I was actually going to ask you about Otten as well. Is there anybody that you've coached that he reminds you of?
I would get in a lot of trouble for answering that question, I think, comparing any of our guys to a Washington player. So I'm going to sidestep that one. But I have no problem complimenting him. He's an active guy, and for a guy with his length and size, gets out of breaks very well, and can make those tough catches that we always appreciate here. One of the things you always love about big athletic tight ends is that you don't have to be perfect as a quarterback. You just kind of throw the ball up in that general area and trust that he's going to bring the ball in.
All right, one last one for you. Just kind of your thoughts on Jimmy Lake and knowing what it's like, because you went through it to take over a program that you were already on the staff of. The fact that he's doing it in the midst of 2020 and a pandemic, just kind of your overall assessment and thoughts on what he's been able to do so far.
Yeah, I've known of Jimmy for a long time. We haven't really known each other for a long time. I reached out to him when he got the job. I know Coach Peterson very well, and Coach Peterson always talked very highly of him. I think Coach Pete's been a great mentor for him. And we were in very similar situations to where a lot of times when you're a first-time head coach, you always don't get a great job your first time as a head coach. But also to take over from a program that is not at its low point. So that's great too. Jimmy's got a lot of energy. He's got a lot of passion, and has done a really good job making the program his own. There are always some things that you keep and some things that you change. If I haven't gone through myself, there are all these things that you think that you would do as the head coach, and then you get put in the chair and you say, I can't do that. Right. So you always have those things. I've told him too, in the off season, if he ever has a question that we ever want to talk about something, that'd be great. This is not the week to do that. But I think he's done a great job initially, and he always knows I wish him the best pretty much every day of the year except for one.
Thank you, Coach.
Yep.
Next question is from Daniel Martinez Crams. Daniel, go ahead.
Hey, Coach, just want to ask about who you were able to take with you on the trip. As coaches, were they allowed to bring families? Were you allowed to bring like extra staff? And then players, is it the entire roster or just that 75 that you're limited to? And if there's an injured player who may come back in a few weeks, like maybe an Ethan Bonner, I don't know, are they able to come with you on this trip?
So that was one that's not on the trip. That was the name I was looking for, was Ethan Bonner. So for those guys that were out long-term, we did not bring those guys. For those guys that we believe will come back in the next couple of weeks, we did bring those guys. Ethan's going to be a little bit long-term, so he did not make the trip with us. Did not bring any families. Did not bring the entire staff, but a high percentage of our football crew. As you said, more than the 75, since this is not just a travel team, this is transplanting the entire team. So we brought everybody who's healthy and everybody who could make the trip. We did have a few guys that didn't make the trip by choice as their prerogative. This is a difficult thing for all of us. But for the most part, our guys are fired up and ready to go.
Next question is from Sam Pasco. Sam, go ahead.
Hey, Coach, this is more of a broader industry question, but as someone that's been around the college game for such a long time, what's your perspective on Sarah Fuller being the place kicker for Vanderbilt?
My perspective is it's almost happened multiple times, right? It's almost happened multiple times. Almost happened in Colorado, almost happened a few different places, a few different times, and it was only a matter of time. And like anything, it takes the right person. It takes the right environment. It takes the right people to on the team and on the staff. I watched Sarah's interview, and just having known nothing about her, I got excited. I got excited that young girls all over the country would see that interview and YouTube that interview and say, that's what I want to be, right? She talked with clarity. She talked with confidence. She talked about her difficulties in life and in sports and having to make that decision to, do I want to continue in sports? And yes, and I'm so glad that I did continue in sports. And this is what it gave me. I think her message is great. I think her message is pure. That role in particular, my daughter grew up playing soccer, and there are young women out there of all ages that can kick a ball a long way. And for anybody that wants to dedicate themselves to that and have an opportunity, God bless them, and I wish them well. So I think it was a barrier that was bound to be broken. And I'm glad that it was, and look forward to the day that, it's just not that big of a deal.
Thank you.
We'll finish up with two last ones. First, Janie McCauley, and then Dave Kiefer. Go ahead, Janie.
Hi, David. May I just clarify one thing real quick? You said a few people opted not to make the trip. Are you talking players or support staff? And are they people who would have contributed in the game for sure? Or I guess, can you clarify a little bit or give us a little more detail on that, please?
Yeah. So it was mainly a few of our student athletes, some that haven't contributed as much. One that has contributed, Jay Simmons, is not on the trip. Scott, I don't know if we had a chance to take him off the 2 deep. It's been such a whirlwind the last 48 hours. So yeah, all the staff that was available to come has come. And once again, a handful of players, and Jay was one that was in the 2 deep. That's not going to be with us here.
How did that go, David? That process. I mean, did you guys meet and say if people aren't comfortable or if they have a family circumstance or what? How did it sort of get discussed? Because that's a tough one.
Absolutely. And by the way, Janie, I love your hat.
Sorry, I just out of my swim and I'm still cold. Thank you.
That's all right. Very similar to the beginning of the year. And this was very upfront by our administration, top down, president, provost, athletic director. We're not making these guys do anything. We're not forcing these guys to do anything. The national opt-out policy is also very well and alive here. And, we will embrace those people that have circumstances or feelings about what's going on. Because as you said, this is a lot for everybody. So once again, much like the beginning of the year, we had a team meeting. Our student athletes had a chance to talk very openly to their coaches, both in a group setting or in a private setting. We set up a survey for them to, just for anybody that didn't feel like talking with everybody else and letting their feelings be known, so we understand how they feel. Because once again, when you undertake something like this, you want to make sure that your student athletes, first of all, want to do what we're doing, and then are on board. And then, like I said at the beginning, great, if you're on board, you want to do it, all right, let's do it with enthusiasm and to the best of our ability. And so that's how that started early in the week. Once all these things started to come to fruition, we didn't just want to take for granted we're going to throw everybody in the bus and say, let's go. We took our student athletes' opinions into account.
Thank you, David.
Last question, we'll finish up with Dave Kiefer. Dave, go ahead.
Yeah, Coach, I know you guys still have goals as a team, but just with all that's happened this year, is there some satisfaction saying at least we have the axe back?
Oh, there's no question about it. Multiple interviews, multiple conversations. I ask this question periodically too to our guys, because the team changes over the years, and people talk about rivalries. I mean, we feel like we have a lot, right? Our natural rivalry is Cal. We feel like we've got a rivalry with USC. It's our longest rival game in the conference. We feel like we have a rival at Oregon, the back and forth for over a decade for winning the Pac-12 North. We look at Washington as a rival. I mean, this is going to be an emotional, physical football game. But to a man, all of our guys this past year said, which game still stings the most from last year? Which game do you want to win the most this year? And they all said Cal. That feeling of getting back the axe was very, very important to our guys. And I think their emotions after the game really showed that.
Thank you.
All right, Coach, thanks for the time. Appreciate everybody joining. We'll send out audio and video here shortly.
Thank you all.